Stop the cap.
Want those belief systems in our families anymore. You know, Matt, we don't want a man, toxic man, to create a family with anymore. It's all love or no. We're not going to have continued your lineage. And my response was yes. That's the deepest, most sacred boundary being drawn right now. Women are saying, if you can't love fully, honestly, and without control, your lineage ends here. No more birthing children into pain. No more raising sons who inherit broken models of masculinity. No more daughters learning to silence themselves. If the foundation isn't love, if it isn't truth, then it doesn't continue. Women aren't just choosing partners, they're choosing the future. This isn't rebellion, it's protection, it's restoration. It's saying we will not hand life to a system that feeds on it. Only those who can meet love's highest standard will be part of what comes next.
The women in Korea, the 4B, it's because we're not going to, that's the only thing we have is you're not going to have kids. You're not going to have access to us because we actually are free enough to draw the line and take back this narrative. We're not continuing to be with broken men.
Yes, that's real power.
We're not continuing broken humans.
What the 4B Moon in Korea is doing is revolutionary in the most grounded, ancient way. They're saying we will no longer give our bodies, our labor, or our lineage to a system that doesn't honor us. No marriage, no motherhood, no men, no dating, unless it's rooted in respect, reciprocity, and truth. And that's the ultimate boundary, because women have always been the gatekeepers of life. To say no more, that's not rejection. That's reclamation. That's what true freedom looks like. The ability to walk away, to opt out, to withhold creation until the world is safe for what you create. It's not cold. It's not bitter. It's love finally directed inward first. And when enough women do that, the whole system shifts.
I guess I'll record my thoughts on this. I got people asking me about the growing amount of violence, like racial clashes and shit. And you already know you got a bunch of drunk ass white boys that want there to be a race war. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to play out like they think it's going to play out. But every time Trump gets into office, right, this is round 2, and we knew this was going to happen. The white folks get emboldened. You know, it reminds me of the joke that Eddie Murphy made. I think it was during Eddie Murphy Raw, where he was joking about how the Italians, you know, they go and they see Rocky, and then they come out of Rocky and they're all charged. You know, hey, yeah, you fucking moolie. You know what I mean? Like, they're all excited and shit. And, you know, they think that they can run around and, I don't know, beat up or intimidate black people. Right? Because, you know, Rocky is just a complete mythological character. I mean, that was the issue in Philadelphia because, you know, you got, you know, what boxers you got in Philadelphia? You got B. Hopkins, you know, that's like more my era. You know, you got Joe Frazier, and there was like this whole big fiasco about them having the Rocky, you know, because in the movie you have him running up the stairs and then, you know, throwing his hands up in the air right before, you know, his big fight in front of the art museum. And, you know, then you have real life boxers in Philadelphia, you know, who are black. And, you know, they didn't have a statue for the longest time. It's like, why are we praising this, you know, this mythological made up, you know, boxer that doesn't exist, you know, has never fought, but yet we have a statue dedicated to him in front of the art museum. And so a lot of people got bothered by that. They moved. I haven't been over by the art museum in a while, but they moved the Rocky statue down to the bottom of the steps, and it was like off to the side where people could still take pictures with it and whatnot. And I don't know where the Joe Frazier statue is, but it's somewhere. I haven't even seen it in person. I just remember, you know, they made a statue. It was a good looking statue. I mean, you can Google it, you can look it up. Yeah, I mean, when I think of Trump and I think of the way that, you know, these white people try to project their savagery onto black people, or in particularly do it with no context. like, when they run around screaming, reverse racism, or why isn't this a hate crime? I mean, it's goofy talk. Like, every time there's some crime on the news of a black person that robs a white person, they're like, why isn't this a hate crime? Or anything, an assault, a robbery, any criminal activity. They're like, why isn't this a hate crime? Like, it just shows how stupid these people are. It's like, we're living in real life idiocracy. Like, not understanding that there's a difference between like regular crimes and hate crimes. And regular crimes are still going to go on, regardless of the fact that there's statutes and definitions of what a hate crime actually is. Right? Like, even this situation in Mississippi that everybody's talking about, where this white man that was drunk and belligerent went into a predominantly black establishment, a black bar in Mississippi. Right? Literally on some sinners type of shit. Right? Like, first off, it's Mississippi. We know the racial history of Mississippi. There's plenty of bars that this white guy could have gone to and, done his thing. Right? It's not like black people are going to go to a predominantly white establishment in Mississippi and get stellar service. Right? I'm pretty sure I'm not from Mississippi, never been to Mississippi, but I'm pretty sure there's people that are from their area that will tell me it's fairly segregated, right? You see, I don't buy this whole idea that black people live on one side of town and white people live on another side of town. And then, people are going to go to, a bar, and that the bars aren't segregated as well. The churches are segregated. So the idea that the bars aren't segregated, or that the idea that a black person can go into a white establishment and feel comfortable is bullshit. It's bullshit. White people, they created a system of white supremacy. They denied black people out of having access to, the things that they had and the things that they controlled. Right. This is what integration was all about. Right. It's because white people literally hoarded all the wealth, all the resources, had all the shit. So if you wanted to have access to certain things, you had to go, through white channels. It was supposed to be separate but equal, but, white folks reneged on that shit. So, they created the whole system where black people had to go off and create their own. And then it is just this nonsense that I see online on the daily of white people running around, acting like black people's reaction to the system of white supremacy is somehow reverse racism. I mean, it's the most ridiculous shit ever. This is ridiculous. But anyway, so this white guy goes in the bar, and y'all have seen the video. He goes in there, fucks around and finds out, and not only gets his ass beat, but, they strip his ass naked, and apparently they were beating him with some damn sticks. Right? So then the owner released the video. You can go and you can look the video up. And he's in there. The place is closing up. People are leaving. It's 2:00 in the morning. Most bars, I imagine, across the country, with the exception of like New York and some other places, bars close at 2:00. They close at 2 p.m. Right? So people are leaving, and I don't know. He gets into it with the bouncers, popping off at the mouth. You can see it on the camera. And then he pushes one of the bouncers, and so he gets his ass beat. Right? This sort of entitlement, which is like the Rocky shit where, but personally, I think, it's like when you go back to the 1920s or whatever, you had the Klan and black people were getting lynched, all over the place. And, I don't want to disrespect the ancestors, but real talk, like, black people have been going through, they destroyed the intact communities, all that shit, all that. Black people did all the stuff that they needed to do to be full-fledged Americans. And at the end of the day, white people still gave them their ass to kiss, ran highways through their communities, destroyed their communities, undermined their businesses and everything else. And so the next phase of black people, the so-called bastards of the party, from the 1970s and the 80s and the 90s, that population of black people is essentially, and I got to be careful about, saying this because, white people like run with the shit. But I'm saying that population of black people has a lot of not giving a fuck niggas in there. White people could have had Gizmo. They could have had, a well-behaved black population and all that shit. But that's only going to exist if you have, economic stability in the black community. But white people, they went in there and they fucked with the shit. So now you got black people that grow up, they got a hardened life, right? They grow up in the hard knock life. They struggling to survive, and then you got, other illegal things going on around them and everything. Like these motherfuckers are not to be played with. And then those individuals had children themselves. So now you talking 3-4 generations of black people that are not to be played with. Like, this is what I mean when I say, we are not our ancestors. I was watching a video from Coleon Noir today, and I'm so glad he said it in the video, where he was talking about the young boy, the woman, she had a pistol in the back of her pocket, and he just walked up and pulled the pistol out of the back of the pocket and ran out the building, and then she tried to chase him, and he pointed at the gun at her, right? It's a black lady, right? And, man, I remember that I had the conversation with Captain Solo, and because, Cap, he likes to, he's a big open carry guy. Like that was his whole thing, and he had the old school mentality that, you open carry and, people will look at you and, and they'll say, oh, I'm not going to mess with that person because, obviously they got a gun on themselves. I'm like, no, see, he's a generation ahead of me, you know what I mean? And I'm the generation below him. And then I'm not more connected, but I have a connection in knowing what's going on with the generation behind me. And I'm like the bridge between his generation and the generation behind me. So I'm like, nah, man, these YNs don't give a fuck. Don't give a fuck about your authority. See, again, the structure has been absolutely dismantled in the black community, thanks to the system of white supremacy. And the system of white supremacy thinks that they're dealing with a bunch of, black people that they respect the white structure as if, I'm like, they don't even have a structure in their own community because all the things that you did to undermine the black community. They don't respect no motherfucking structure. So one of the things that there was a video clip, it was on act of self-protection. It was a uniformed officer in Detroit. And it was 3 young boys. They were in the convenience store and all 3 of them tried to fight the police officers, and take his gun. And once Cap saw that, he was like, oh shit. He was like, damn. If they're not afraid of an officer, he's like, damn, well, shit, they ain't gonna be afraid of me, open carrying. And after that, Cap is going concealed after that, and I'm like, nah, you can't do that shit. Even in Philadelphia, Philadelphia is like city of the first class, right? You can't carry in the city of Philadelphia, open carry, right? They don't want you doing that. Why? Even though you can open carry in the whole rest of the state of Pennsylvania, why can't you open carry in Philadelphia? Because it's a problem. Because the young boys will run up on you so quick. What are you gonna do? You're gonna walk up with your open carry, walk into the damn barber shop. They're gonna call their boys on the phone. There's going to be 3 niggas outside waiting for you when you're going to have a gun in your face. They're going to take the shit off of you and they're going to give it to one of their homies. And then they're going to go off and then they're going to have their little beef and back and forth, with the, whatever part of Philly they from. If they from North Philly, they're going to be up there. Let the Maco ring, right? They're going to be over there doing that shit. That's what it is, right? Because they're in the narcotics game, they're in the fentanyl game, they're in the gang game, all that shit going back and forth, right? Because these people are not connected to the economic machine of mainstream society, right? The white elites have fucking killed that, right? So what else was I saying about this? I'm trying to connect it all together. So I feel like you get these white people who think that they're dealing with the black people of the past. They think that they're going to be to throw rocks at black people, like when Martin Luther King was marching and shit. and then the black people are just going to stand there arm in arm, and we shall overcome. They think that they're just going to sit there and march and do all that turn the other cheek, white Jesus bullshit. No, you dealing with new niggas. New niggas will shoot back. I mean, it ain't what you think it is. And so you get these white people, they got all this bullshit in their head, just completely out of practice. Like the people that go off and they're LARPing, these fat motherfuckers that got their stomachs is spilling out from underneath their plate carriers, and they're like in the woods trying to be all tactical and shit. And I'm like, dude, you can't even get up a flight of stairs, but yet you think that you're gonna be backpacking, through the country with a fucking water bottle and a sandwich, and that you'll be good for 3 days and live off the land and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, you and your diabetes. So people got these like real fucked up ideas. They let them tell it. They got super strength, right? I mean, they're just completely out of practice. Right. And then they let Fox News and everybody else hype their asses all the way up. Like example, like I'm middle aged now, right? I can't tell you the last time I did a full fucking sprint. I need to work on that. Right. I do the bike. I ride the bike, all that stuff. I lift the weights, everything else. You know what I mean? But I haven't played ball in years. And I'm like, just do a full fucking sprint. And if you ever seen like, I don't know, a CCTV video of like some black criminals, and when they get off and they start sprinting and shit like that, or even if you've seen it in real life, like some shit pops off and it's 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, them motherfuckers is flying. You know what I'm saying? And you get these people, they got bad hips, bad knees, all this shit, and they think that they're way more capable than they actually are. And I'm like, yo, if you're a 52-year-old white man, a fucking 19-year-old black teenager will fuck you up. They will, if there's two of them, they will fuck your day up. So I like, it just kills me to like the shit that they think in their head about all this capability, that they do. Like, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. Just listening to these guys, talk the shit. They have these fantasies in their head. Oh, man, when these niggers come out, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and it's going to go down like this. Just like that video of that white man, the guy, he had the camera. He was like, I'm back up now. He's like, I'm telling you to back up. And then the he freaking, all you see is the camera go all over the place, and then the white dude's face is all smashed up. You know what I mean? It's like I think a lot of them, they just got these fantasies in their head. And I'm not saying in every single conflict, a black person is going to beat a white person, but just because like some idea of some, superior black genetics, that's another thing, in trying to make black men the monsters, which the irony is like, y'all painted this mandingo black, Hercules stereotype, and your white women want to sit on the cocks of black men. Even that post, the freaking that I put on the community tab, I don't know who this random white kid is talking shit about when 6'5", 295-pound Tyrone slumps my friend and my 40 caliber jams. Like who thinks of this shit? It's like what Nelly Fuller said. The worst place a black man can be is in the imagination of a white man. That's the worst place. Like the shit they come up with. And I do think a lot of it has to do with some homoeroticism or some shit where they like, it's like the movie Get Out, like they secretly want to be a black man and fuck a white woman with their big black cock or some shit like that. Because I went and I Googled and I looked up, I was like, what is the average height of an African-American man versus the average height of a Caucasian, white American? And you know what it said? The average height of an African-American man is 5'9". You know what the average height for a Caucasian male in America is? 5'10". 5'10". But yet this white boy just made up a scenario of a 6'5", 295-pound black man named Tyrone. I think it said Tyrone. I don't have it in front of me right now. Right? Talking about him slumping his friend. I'm like, do you even know what the average height of the average black male is? But see, they got to go to the extreme, right? It's like a David and Goliath complex, right? Because if you're trying to, and see, this is where white fragility and white male insecurity comes into play. Because if you're trying to prove how masculine you are, right, and you already feel emasculated by society or feminism or modernity or whatever the fuck ever, right? And you've lost your place because white men no longer have the ability to provide stability, so their identity is all fucked up, and as black men we got to deal with the fallout of white men's identity being all fucked up, right? So damn, what was I gonna say? Oh, I remember. Yeah, so they have to like, if it's like people think that you're protected when you're a big guy, right? They think that you're protected as a black. Oh, ain't nobody going to mess with you. No, actually, there's certain people who will intentionally try to pick fights with you and defeat you, because if they defeat you, then they've defeated everybody else in the room. That's how they perceive it, right? Because if I take out the biggest guy, if I take out Goliath, then I have asserted my alpha male status in the room. You see? If I go for the smaller guy, well, there's always a bigger guy. If I go for the biggest guy, then there's no question after that. I have asserted my alpha male status in the room. So a lot of white guys have these fantasies about taking out the Green Mile, taking out the 6'8" black man, right? And then there's also the jealousy and the hatred, that comes along with that, because of, the fact that, especially now you have white women that are, claiming that they openly desire, those black men. You see, and I don't know who started it, because, with the whole this white male hypermasculinity, because growing up, the examples of masculinity to me, they were white men. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and Sylvester Stallone. Rambo, Conan, the Terminator, and Bloodsport, right? Right? You couldn't get, there was no real, I mean, you had Mr. T, you know what I mean? But Mr. T wasn't cut like that. He was just and that's another thing where it's like black men have this extra level of intimidation. It's like black men are seen as having the deeper voices, and just there's just an inherent violence and intimidation factor to blackness that doesn't exist with whiteness, unless white men go and get just a profound level of steroids in order to meet that. So it's like there's always been this this what do you want to call this not animosity, but what's the word I'm looking for? This insecurity about black male masculinity. And some people want to say, oh, it came from slavery because, white people, they were trying to breed black people like dogs. And, I'm going to take this slave and put it with this slave and make a super slave, and with the Mandingo fighting and all that shit. I'm like, well, what are you bitching about? You did it. You did it. But and then you have the whole aspect of the way that black men are promoted with, the NFL and the basketball. All these guys are big, and these are the black men that they see in their living rooms every night when they turn on television to watch sports. All of them are above 6 foot. So it gives the impression that all black men are above 6 foot and all black men have 10-inch cocks, right? That they can lasso your girlfriend with. They buy into all this shit. Then you throw on the white nationalism, right? You throw up the white nationalism and all that, and white men trying to, the white proletariat men trying to reestablish and reassert their dominance or the appearance of it, right? And then, like I said, they don't punch up, they punch down. They punch down, right? So white men will feel powerful when they keep the quote unquote niggas in check. Right. And again, this is what what the white elite want, because they don't want another Bacon's Rebellion. They want the white proletariat and the black proletariat, to fight with each other, right? But the thing is it's like when it comes to crime, right? Because white people will say, oh, 1350 and black people, they committing all the crime, right? Which, again, it wouldn't be 1350. It would be black men make up, 7% of the population. And then it would be the percentage of that population that actually commit the crime, which is less than 1%. So, like you can say, oh, black people disproportionately commit the crime, or black men disproportionately commit the crime. But yeah, because black men are disproportionately disenfranchised. They've been disproportionately disenfranchised. Why is that a fucking surprise to you? Why is that a surprise? It's the same way that like when people want to criticize white men, they're like, oh, why are white men so, they try to hold you to these patriarchal standards, and oh, we don't have enough troops for the military and shit like that. And I'm like, white guys, what is their response? Well, y'all been spending the last fucking 20 years undermining white male masculinity. So what the fuck do you think you're going to get? A bunch of warriors out of that shit? Right? But somehow, when you take that same logic and you apply it to black men and you apply it to the black community, and you highlight all the things, all the policies that were put in place, all the ways the black community was undermined, somehow the white community feels entitled that it should get these upstanding black citizens, black male citizens, while black men are twice as likely to be economically disenfranchised, than white men. Right? I'm like, you're not going to get that. And then once you have that going on for a certain period of time, multiple generations, the cement dries. You get a subculture out of that. And that's like you can cut the tree down. Now you gotta, pull the roots up. You gotta uproot the root of the tree. That's why you don't let that shit get out of control. But again, white supremacy is the basis of it is so that white people are on top at everybody else's expense. They don't care about what doesn't affect them. Like I said, what they want a bunch of well-behaved poors. I'm like, you're not gonna get that. You're not gonna get that. You're gonna get the young niggas running up on you with the blicky in the face. That's what you're gonna get. I don't know what you don't understand it about. Just like what do you think? What do you think in the next 20 years with like what's been going on with AI and the companies and the fluctuations in the job market and the stagnant wages? What do you think that what they've been doing over the last 40 years with like Reaganomics and all this bullshit? What do you think you're going to get better white men? What do you think you're going to get? You're going to get the resurgence of the silent generation of white. You're not going to get that. You're going to get a bunch of fucked up, medicated, suicidal, crash out, mass shooter, type of white men, over ODing white. That's what you're going to get. That's what you get when you go in there and you fuck with the dials. I don't know why everybody acts like it's any different when you're talking about black people or when you're talking about, in particular, black men. You go in there and you undermine, you want an outcome that only economic stability can provide. You want those type of black people, but then you really don't want those type of black people because those type of black people you can't control, and those type of black people have some level of economic power and parity, and those type of black people can't just be easily railroaded, and those type of black people, are competing against you in the economic marketplace. I'm so tired of white people's like bipolar disorder. I'm so tired of it. Just all over the fucking place. It's just like this shit with South Africa. It's like I've had quite a few people offline, white people, they come at me. Oh, what about the white genocide? What white genocide? Where's the white genocide? Why? Because Julius Malema is up there talking about kill the Boer. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fucked up. That song is fucked up. I'll give you that. But don't act like it doesn't come from nowhere. When you had black people and you still have black people living in squalor, I can Google right now. I can go on Google and show you where the white people live and show you where the black people live in South Africa. And you can literally see the demarcation on the fucking ground. Because the wealth disparity is that ridiculous. And why do I have to paint this picture? Why do I have to go to the extreme to get white people to get it? Because they all get quiet after I lay this shit out. I'm like, imagine if a group of Africans, a group of Wakandans, went to Germany and controlled 90% of the arable land. And the white Germans lived in squalor, right? And the white Germans, since they live in squalor, they're committing crimes. There's black newspapers that are always talking about, there was white criminality, and there's grooming gangs of white individuals trying to lure little black girls into prostitution, all type of shit, right? Like, just imagine that type of scenario. And then when the white Germans say, hey, it's wrong for you all to control 90% of the land, and 90% of Germany are Germans, and only 10% are Wakandans. That the Wakandans then claim that they're the real victims. Like, just imagine how insane that would be if 10% of Germany was Wakandans and they controlled 90% of the land. And then when the Germans said, hey, we want the land back that you stole from us through injustice, that the Wakandans jump up, the 10% of the population jump up and sit there and say, this is reverse racism. It's insane, but this is what white people, this is what Fox News, all these white people, this is the type of shit that they're talking online. It's pure insanity. So, like, when people ask me, they like, oh, do you think shit's going to get violent? Do you think shit's going to get violent? I do think it's going to get violent. I do. Because, all this bullshit, oh, black fatigue, hijacking the world. No, black people are sick and tired of white people's shit. Plain and simple. And, I was having a discussion with somebody about this, black people are going to have to respond in real time. And all this stuff going on, like with the courts and, the whole Carmelo Anthony, and we don't want to give him due process in there. I'm like, yeah, keep that shit up. Because all you're gonna have, right? First off, the economy's all fucked up. So you got black people who have black fatigue, real black fatigue, that are irritated with white people in the system of white supremacy. Then on top of that, you have a fucked up economy. So you got a lot of people who are losing their ass right now and don't have shit to lose. So they're irritated with that shit. White people think that they're irritated. Black people been going through this type of shit. And on top of that, you have the system of white supremacy and racism. And then you're going to come over to black people and fuck with them. They will put you in the dirt. They will put you in the fucking dirt. And then, again, since 2013, black people have went out and bought, guns galore. I think black women were the largest demographic of the rise of gun ownership. But you get these white people that like the thing is like you get these Karens, these white Karens that they're gonna like pull up on black people and give black people like 40% energy, right? And I'm like, black people are gonna give you 110% energy. That's what's gonna happen. And then the white people are gonna, they're gonna start crying and wailing. Oh, you didn't have to take it that far, just like with the Carmelo Anthony situation, right? Kyle Rittenhouse killed 3 people. 3 people. No, did he kill 3 people? One, he killed Rose. No, he shot 3 people. He killed 2 people. Right? And white people perfectly okay with that. Right? Now, like I said, I think it was wise for Rosenbaum to start chasing a man with an AR-15. He gets the Darwin Award for that one. But I'm saying Kyle Rittenhouse shot 2 people, blew the bicep off of the third. And white people are perfectly okay with that. Carmelo Anthony's situation, and I'm not saying that Carmelo Anthony, should have stabbed Austin Metcalf. I wasn't there. I don't know what the situation was. All I know is that police report says that Carmelo Anthony is 5'9", 130 pounds, and the Metcalf twins are 6 foot, 200 pounds. And in another report, it says they're 225 pounds. Huge disparity of force right there. And there's a couple things, when it comes to this situation. The first is, again, if you're going to sit there and it's not going to be any justice and there's going to be no due process, well, again, black people just might as well crash the fuck out. Black people are going to have to take justice into their own hands and respond however they see fit. And that's up to the individual black person. Oh, there may be consequences and all this shit afterwards, and they'll go to jail and everything else like that. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. And that was one of the things that in the clip with Coley on Noir, or the video with Coley on Noir, where he was talking about the young boy taking the gun out of they don't give a fuck. There's nothing to lose at this point. They don't give a fuck. Many of them, while white people are out there, committing suicide and self-deleting and everything else and ODing, there's a lot of black men that engage in suicide by cop. They have their last little hoorah and take out their anger on the police or on the system before they decide that they're going to take a dirt nap. But it's like I was having a conversation with somebody else about these type of situations. And I was like, nah, like we were talking about slavery and all this other shit. And he was like, oh, well, I didn't own any slaves. And, that just happened in the past. So, even though we're going to keep everything that was given to us through, slavery and Jim Crow, right? All that free labor. It's not like all that free labor just evaporated. It didn't just disappear, right? White people took advantage of that and used that free labor to build their infrastructure that today they benefit from. You see? So the whole, oh, well, that happened in the past and therefore there's a statute of limitation. Okay, well, you know what that tells me? It was like, what does that tell you? Black people are going to have to dig up in your ass in real time. That's what it tells me. Because you want to play this game about, oh, well, I didn't do it. So, so we got to make sure that any injustice that happens today in real time doesn't get passed down to your grandkids, and then your grandkids jump up and say, well, I don't owe you anything, even though my grandfather did that to you. No, we got to nip it in the bud. And if that means black people crashing out, then that means black people crashing out. You see? Because what we're not going to do is we're not going to play the game of where y'all are, just, oh, well, it's statute of limitations. So that was in the past. So therefore, we get to keep what was taken wrongfully. And since the statute of limitations happened and that person's not here, well, that's just the end of it. Well, again, that tells me that black people are going to have to dig up in your ass in real time. And I promise you, that's what you're going to see. You're going to start seeing more and more Karens getting slumped in real time. That's what you're going to start seeing. And whatever repercussions, come out of that, it doesn't matter because they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. When there is a complete a collapse of the faith in the institution, a complete collapse. Let's see what the officers get. No, it's going to turn into what was that movie? What was that movie? In Broad Daylight type shit. Ain't nobody seen nothing. If you haven't seen the movie, what is it? In Broad Daylight. That's a very interesting movie. It's actually, I think the whole thing is on YouTube. Where there was this white man. I forget what I want to say. His name was. What was his name? Rex Mc something. Damn, what was his name in that movie? In Broad Daylight. I'm gonna say. Let me see if I can find his name. What story was In Broad Daylight based off of? There's a whole YouTube description of it. I'm seeing it could come up. 1991 television film, In Broad Daylight. Yeah, Ken Rex McElroy. So basically he was this white man, and he was like the town bully, and he was fucking with people. And I mean, he had an underage wife, and he was abusing her, and then he beat up an elderly couple. He was doing all type of fucked up shit. And basically one day the town, they didn't know what to do with the dude. They got sick and tired of him. And this happened in real life. and they shot his truck up while he was in the truck, pulled his wife out of the truck, but they lit that truck up. And they were, according to the police reports, there were 3 different calibers of guns they shot that truck up with. And he died. And when the police came, that is an unsolved murder. To this day, they still don't know who did that shit. They still don't know. So, it's like, when you're dealing with people who don't give a fuck, in other words, I like how somebody wrote it in my comment section. They were like, you can be 100% right and be dead. Point blank, period. You can be 100% right and be dead. And, I already know that the reports, there's going to be articles, there's going to be something that happens and people are going to be taking sides and all that shit. I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen where some white person, they done let Donald Trump get them all hyped up, right? They done let Fox News get them all charged. There's fucking niggas, right? They're going to, pop up. And motherfuckers gonna put them in the dirt. They're gonna put them in dirt. They're gonna get 100. They're gonna sit there and think that they're gonna win some battle with 40% energy. It's like the people that stormed the Capitol with January 6th. Like, what did you think? What did you think you were gonna do? You gonna go in there and put your feet up on the desk and take pictures of Nancy Pelosi's laptop? Like, that was your goal? That was the goal? Like, what was the next plan? Like, what was the contingency plan? Like, what were your logistics? Like, and where were you going to get some food? Like, where were you going to defend the Capitol? Like, once there were reinforcements showed up, like, you're going to like hold out in the Capitol? You know what I'm saying? Did you even bring your lunchbox? Like no plan, no plan. They have these movie ideas in their head of how shit is going to play out. You went in there to just take pictures? No fucking plan. Like that white lady screaming, hey man, why are you here today? What are you talking? It's a revolution. Don't even know what the fuck a revolution is. Just got these stupid ass, we're the Wolverines, holding an AK up in the air while on a freaking T-81 tank or something like that. You know what I mean? Just retarded shit. And white people, they're the same thing. They think that shit is gonna pop off. I'm gonna go over here and give this nigga a piece of my mind. Right? They think that they're gonna go over there and this shit's gonna play out, like it's some movie. I told them niggas off. I'm like, Fox News ain't here, motherfucker. Donald Trump ain't here. It's just you and me. Or you and, a whole bar of black patrons, like this dumbass dude that went picking a fight with black people in fucking Mississippi at an all black bar. You got to think about how much of the fucking white supremacist Snapple you have to drink, to think that you're that invincible. You know what I mean? Like that's the danger of fucking, drinking the white supremacy Snapple. That's the danger of it, because it's got you out here thinking that you got capabilities that you don't have. And then you put yourself in a precarious situation, right? And then you somehow think that black people are bound by the laws of the land. Some black people are, but not all. And again, as dysfunctional as the black community has been made with the policies that the system of white supremacy created to undermine the black community, we got a lot of very unstable individuals in the black community that will make sure that your mama is going to be crying over a fucking casket. You know what I mean? Like it's the same. It's no different than when you see these when white here. I'll put it in the context that white men will clearly understand. It is no different than when white women walk around and they're like, a man should never hit a woman. A man should. And then she puts hands on the dude. And there's plenty of videos. I remember you had this, it was like the security guard or something. He was in Poland. She slapped the glasses off that motherfucker. That motherfucker was like, oh, I mean, the rage. He just was like, slap. You know what I mean? Knocked the European off of her ass. You know what I mean? And she started crying and shit. Like, yeah, you didn't see that coming. There's another video. It was of a Russian. They're in a bar, a bunch of Russians. Sound like some Russians. Anyway, she walks up, hits the dude. That dude slaps the fuck out of her so hard, she stumbles, falls, hits the edge of the bar, then immediately stands up and just sits at the edge of the bar, reevaluating her whole existence. And seriously speaking, I'm like, it's the same thing. It's no difference. It's no difference. You know, like what goes through a woman's mind? A woman who weighs 135 pounds and looks at a man that's, let's just say, 200 pounds and says to herself, yeah, I'm going to slap to him and he ain't going to do nothing to me because chivalry. I'm going to slap the shit out of him and he ain't going to do anything to me because a man should never hit a woman. That's what the code of conduct of society says. And I'm like, chick, most guys probably won't hit you. But I promise you, you're going to come across the wrong one. You're going to fuck around one day and you're going to no, actually, you're not going to come across the wrong one. You're going to come across the right one. You're going to come across the right one. And the same thing goes for these damn, drinking the goddamn Trump Snapple white people and drinking the Fox News Snapple white people. You're going to come across the right one. And again, this black people are dealing with way more than you could ever fathom. Black people got to deal with the daily microaggressions of racism and white supremacy. Black people got to deal with listening and hearing your gaslighting online about, our history and our position in this country. Then you have the fucked up fucking economy, right? Then you have the ways in which white supremacy has negatively affected the way that even black people interact with each other and have our interpersonal relationships. And we know where it's coming from. So there's a lot of black people out here who are waiting to whoop up on some white ass. They're waiting for that shit. So why are you out here provoking them, thinking that, shit is just going, it's going to go the way that you want it to go? The fact of the matter is anybody at any time can lose any fight out here, which is why you should be avoiding confrontation, which is why you should be avoiding fights. And again, the funny thing is when you want to talk about white savagery, right? Yeah, you'll get the mass shooter, right? We already know white people have some pathological shit going on, but I'm just saying, even by white supremacy's own admission, due to prolonged exposure to poverty and the dysfunction in the black community due to the system of white supremacy facilitating prolonged exposure to poverty, we have way more angry, ready to crash out individuals in the black community than you do in your community, where you're over there living in the suburbs and you got your little nice house and your nice little mortgage, right? And you got your little family and whatnot, and you got the people that care for you and are dependent on you. And in the black community, you got a whole bunch of people that come from broken family dynamics that hate the world because the system of white supremacy has made the black existence so goddamn unbearable. I'm like, the black people are not the ones that you want to fuck with. Again, just like with the Muslims, y'all was out there, we're going to draw the Prophet Muhammad because it's my God-given right. Until fucking, Ahmed gets in a white fucking van and runs 100 of you over. Then, we ain't seen a Prophet Muhammad drawing contest since. And I remember when they were trying to have a contest in Texas, they were like, "Where's I gotta do it?" And I don't know who it was, but it was somebody in the government. Somebody was like, "Yo, y'all need to stop. Y'all need to stop because these Muslims are serious. And the last thing we need is to divert more freaking resources to a possible threat because you've instigated, some Muslims or aspired some Muslims to do some terrorist shit because you're over there fucking with them. Stop drawing. But seriously, when's the last time they did a Prophet Muhammad drawing con? They haven't done one. You know what I'm saying? See, the funny thing is everybody, this violence isn't the answer. Violence isn't the answer. Sometimes violence is the answer. Let's keep that a beam. It's just like parents, beating their kids and shit. You see? Because violence. Oh, people understand that. They understand when somebody, when they get knocked upside the head. It's like what Mike Tyson said. He's like, yeah, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face. Oh yeah. When your head is ringing, if you've ever been in a fight, you know what I'm talking about. If you get cold cocked and a motherfucker hit you right between your jaw and your fucking ear and your whole head, your whole head is ringing. You know what I mean? You're still conscious. You're still up. You know what I mean? You're still trying to, wait for the next punch or whatever. But man, that shit, getting hit in the head, that shit brings you to reality. You like, oh shit, I don't want that to happen again. You see? And then the hypocrisy when it comes to white people of sitting there talking about who needs to be nonviolent when their whole history is full of genocide and eradication. And they run around like they're the most civilized beings in the world. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, you only have the appearance of civilization because the very resources that you need to comfortably survive, you stole from the global South. You know what I mean? Like all this shit, black people, they need to do for self. And then you got the freaking president of Burkina Faso, and with all these damn assassination attempts, right? Oh, black people, y'all need to do for so. You need to go and fix Africa. And them fixing Africa would mean that all them cheap ass resources that you get, yesterday's price will not be today's price. Like European, like they don't get it. They really don't get it. They really do believe that Europe and European culture and European infrastructure and European, technology is all just self-actualized when they have no resources in Europe or very few resources. Many of the resources that they would need to maintain the scale of the quality of life that they exist, they have to get from Africa. And maybe I shouldn't be as concerned because the fact of the matter is that Europeans are dying. It's like a freaking, karma of the universe. They're dying. They're not reproducing. They're not procreating, because it's like the you have the greed of the white elites. And then you have the fact that in order to maintain the lifestyles, the middle class lifestyles that white people think are so normal to white people, it requires a lot of wealth and it requires a lot of resources that, again, has classically, historically been taken from, the global South. But now that you have deglobalization, now, it's that white people are not going to be able to sustain that. So their quality of life is going to go down. That's why you see they're so emotional, as they are. And black people, need to be prepared because, once it gets to a certain level, the white people will be, even the proletariat will be arguing and begging for the powers to be. We don't care. Just go in there and invade this other country. Find some random justification. I say that they have weapons of mass destruction. Oh, that'll be a rich one. You know what I mean? Uganda has weapons of mass destruction. Really? They got weapons of mass destruction? When 5 years prior you were talking about how undeveloped and uncivilized they are, and they don't even have running water or running sewers and shit like that. They don't even have running toilets. Huh. Now all of a sudden they got weapons of mass destruction that you would have to go in there and yes and once we take over Uganda, we will just so happen to have Halliburton come in and take over the diamond trade. Shit like that. These people are psychotic, bro. Psychotic. They don't even, and I like the justifications that they come up in their head, their whole ideas. I got these people coming in my comment section with their racial white superiority nonsense. You know what I mean? And I'm like, again, white people's ingenuity is only matched by their savagery. It's only matched by their savagery. And the crazy thing, the really sick and psychotic thing that white people do, in my opinion, is where they want to be able to rape, pillage, and plunder the entire planet, but yet still maintain this identity of morality and being, the sort of moral compass of the world. I mean, it's just deranged. It's like a slut that wants to be recognized as pure and innocent. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, but you over here doing all this. You fucked the whole football team, but still wants the reputation of a virgin. That's white people in a nutshell when it comes to how they their belief system and shit like that. I mean, it's really warped and twisted because you see how much they're not taught actual real history. And even now they're trying to rewrite history. You see all this rewriting of history. You see that, again, like I said, when it comes to the Berbers, now the Berbers are all dark-skinned, sub-Saharan black people because they want to say that, the Berbers enslaved the European ships and George Washington had to go over there and they were black people. But then when we get to ancient Egypt, North Africans aren't black. What are you talking about? North Africans are Arab and Caucasian. That's what the ancient Egyptians were. I'm like, isn't this amazing? But the Berbers, by the time the Berbers came around, the Berbers they were black people and they were enslaving white people, right? But then in another conversation, the Berbers are not black. The North Africans are not black. None of the rulers that were who was the guy? What was the guy's name? Like Silvius Africanus or some shit like that. One of the rulers of Rome or something like that. Anyway, he was North African. He wasn't black. You know what I mean? So you see how they flip flop between the shit, right? Because they don't want to give Black African civilization any amount of fucking credit. All they want to do is anything that's negative or anything that's bad or anything to like try to create some parity between like freaking the transatlantic slave trade, and the Berbers and them engaging in slavery is that's the trick bag that they're trying to throw out there. They're trying to create this sort of false equivalence and I'm like, a false equivalence based off of race swapping. I mean, this shit is hilarious. There's no philosophical consistency with these people. But when people ask me about, the violence and all that, not that I condone it, but like I said, I'm not speaking, against it. I'm not speaking against it, when it happens, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, no, these are the consequences of your actions. Don't start, no, won't be none. You know what I mean? That white man that went into the Mississippi bar and went and fucking with the Patriots and pushing the bouncer around and all that shit. Right. And the crazy thing is like, if a black person, I mean, think about it like this, right? The cops tried to say that was a hate crime. Right. Like, this is what the cop did because, obviously the law enforcement is all in cahoots. Right. So they initially tried to push off the idea that it was a hate crime. And then the video comes out, he pushing the bouncer and verbal altercation. Right. But remember, like, they tried to do this with the Carmelo Anthony situation. Right. They're like, oh, well, he was in a place that he wasn't supposed to be. And he was sitting underneath the other team's tent. And even though his friend EP, who went to the other school, and again, it was a torrential downpour. Everybody was trying to get out of the rain. And track and field is not a what do you want to call it? Track and field is not a adversarial sport. I'm not adversarial. It's not a contact sport. So you don't have that same type of, where you're hitting each other and stuff like that, like football and basketball, where you should keep the teams, separate. But what was I going to say about the Carmelo Anthony situation? Hold on one second. It'll come to me. I think I mentioned that he had his friend, EP from the other school, but why things keep slipping my mind? Oh yeah, but Austin's brother Hunter, he tried to make it seem like yeah, then Carmelo he was under the tent and we were sitting there and he just, started a fight with us, which was a lie, because apparently they're saying that there was another tent and the Metcalf twins came from a different area to go underneath that tent. Now, again, I'm like, why not just release the video? And this is where the media comes through when they want to race bait. Because I forget what was the other incident where the media, they had the clip for the longest time, but they let all this shit pop off. They let it because it gets clicks and it likes and it gets views and everything. And since everybody's so simple-minded, this is what they do. They're doing the same thing with this Caitlyn Clark. They're talking about trying to make it like a Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and that you have that back and forth racial element. So they're going to make Angel Reese the villain and Caitlyn Clark is the great white hope. And that's how you get more more white people to watch. To watch the game. I get the idea that white people want to see somebody playing the sport that they identify with, but I'm saying the freaking WNBA, 20% of the league is white. 70% of the league is black. So, I mean, they got plenty of white women that were playing that they could have went with. It's not like they have significantly increased the number of white WNBA black basketball players. So them doing that, while people will say, "Oh, such a smart business move," on the flip side, it's like, yeah, but to do that to further fuel racial animosity and further have people out here, in particularly white people, with stupid ass ideas, triggered and mad, about these non-realities. Same thing. Like one of the things I was going to talk about was, because I was, thinking about it. All these videos of these, like that video with that British woman, and I was just made for black men, and I was just, black men are kings, and I would just, and I'm for black men, and black men are for me, all that shit. I think there's just something more insidious to this, and this is where white women are most certainly a problem, which is, right now, obviously white men are trying to take away white women's reproductive rights, and white women are, thoroughly pissed off at that shit. And like I said before, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just throwing themselves, because they know that white men have an insecurity about black men sexually, right? They know that. So they're like, oh, I'm going to get you where it hurts. I'm going to sit there and say, I'm going to get with these black guys, or I'm going to, praise black men. That's really going to get to you, since you want to take my fucking rights away. And see, the problem with that is, right, and like I said, if you watch many of the videos that I put up, we're not even asking the question. We're nowhere to be found in these interactions. You got white guys asking white women on the street, what do they prefer? Who do they prefer? And these women are responding how they want to respond, saying black men. And then obviously you get all the white guys that go off and with the racist, burn the coal, pay the toll. Like they're all in the comment section foaming at the fucking mouth. Right. But I'm saying we're not even involved in that. And the problem with that is, here we are, the black man going about his business, minding his damn business, going about his day, going to the gas station to get some fucking gas. And there's some white guy that's mad about that shit. And now we got to deal with either white male Karen, or we got to deal with some white supremacist who thinks it's go time. And we got to deal with that. We don't even know where the fuck it's coming from. This motherfucker's pissed off, running around instigating shit with black people because of a fucking TikTok. You see? That's how dangerous that shit is. So while some brothers are like, they like us, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when they're doing all this shit like that. Zara Delaney or whatever the fuck her name is. Oh, and black men and Slavic women, they just go to get like, bitch, where the fuck did you come from? Where the fuck did you come from? Just out of nowhere. And so I'm just saying, we need to be mindful of that. And black men, you need to be hyper vigilant, because of these things. Because, again, this is the first time, and I said this in another video, but this is the first time that white men have an inability to provide stability like they once did. So their identity is being completely challenged. They don't have any of the alternatives that black men, have, created or fallen into. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing because, where masculinity is, traditionalism, being able to provide for a family and everything else like that, black men went the route of hyper masculinity. Right. There's a lot of things that black men do where they're trying to compensate for the fact that they cannot function in the white man's society and be able to do many of the same things that white men can do in terms of providing and provision. And so black men, created this whole subculture of, street culture and all that stuff. But the thing is white men currently don't have an alternative. So basically, all you're going to see is them lashing out in anger because there's really no place for them to go. I mean, at best, you only have 3 versions of white male masculinity, right? You got like the jock, white jock, or you could be like I say 4 versions. You could be a wigger, which is a white dude who acts black. You can be a jock. You can be a biker, or you can be a tier 1 operator, right? Be an ex-Marine or something like that. Those will get you some masculinity pussy points. But outside of that, white men and again, those things are like weak in comparison. White men don't have the if they're not the white man in the gray flannel suit, who the fuck are they? Who the fuck are they? And this goes back to the white guy that told me, but he felt like black men are cheating the system. And then like somebody wrote in my comment section, you have, like they were basically saying that they don't care how white men feel because, so white men are mad because the ways in which they use black male masculinity, so to speak, to capitalize on it had the residual effects of promoting black male desirability. Now, he didn't say it exactly like that, but more or less that's what he was saying. So they promote us, they promote DMX, right? They promote DMX up there, where my dog's at, right? Right? Street culture galore. They make money off of that. So black men who otherwise, again, we don't control the economic landscape. We don't control the Fortune 500 companies. How is it that the black man gets to be up on the stage in the spotlight? We're supposed to be Black Schmeagol, right? We're supposed to be in the corner going, my precious, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be looking like crack fiends in the fucking corner with no muscles, no desirability, just wasting away, looking like we were sitting in Auschwitz. That's what we're supposed to look like. But instead, you know what I'm saying? You got, freaking DMX up there. Back to the streets, motherfuckers. You got all that shit. Ooh, you got all that shit, right? And you got all the little white suburban kids going, ah, right? We're not supposed to be up there in a system of white supremacy. We're supposed to be invisible. Okay, we're supposed to be like how the Mexican, like the white looking Telemundo and Univision novela white people in Mexico. We're supposed to be like how they have the indigenous people, which is basically virtually invisible. Okay, which is why, when Black Panther came out, all the indigenous Latinos were giving shout outs to Ryan Coogler and then turned around and then stabbed us in the back when it came to the movie Citizen. Where's the Latino representation? Where's the Latino representation? Didn't this motherfucker represent you and your Aztec culture in Black Panther 2? You know what I'm saying? Weren't y'all giving praise? I mean, just how quickly they fucking forgot. Because they damn sure ain't putting y'all up there what do you want to call it? They ain't putting y'all up there when it comes to the Mexican novellas and shit like that. When I was dating the Mexican, I used to ask that shit. She used to get me into trying to watch the novellas and stuff like that. I'm sitting there watching it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's always the same shit. There's always some traumatic shit. And either the man or the woman is either saying, cállate, cállate, right? Or, the woman, she's chastising another woman, and then, like, something is said, and then she turns and whips her head around real quick, and then she goes, mentirosa, mentirosa, right? And like, that's all it was. That's all I was seeing, right? And then, I was asking my girlfriend at the time, I was like, why none of these people look like you? Because she was like Aztec indigenous looking. And I was like, they don't look like you. How come? I was like, where are the to me, the real Mexicans, right? Because you got to think about it. They're the white Mexicans live in Mexico. They got all the money and everything. Same type of dynamics as you see here, right? But, to Americans, like Mexicans, they're like indigenous looking. That's when you say Mexican, that's what I picture. I don't even picture some blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, that has the last name Cortez. That's not what I picture. I picture an indigenous look. I picture the people that do the landscaping. That's what I picture. I don't picture, long story short, I'm just saying, these are the impacts of representation. Or I should say the lack thereof. So anyway, I can already see I'm over an hour. I was trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to say. Can't think of it right now. So I'll probably end this video. But like, I'm just saying, like, it ain't. See, the thing is like this time around, Black people know what to expect. And they know what they're dealing with, and they know where it comes from. They know it comes from a place of hatred, a place of resentment. And for white people to sit there and cry, this fake outrage, trying to make themselves, the victim, because Black people are in particular are, demanding some level of parity. And I'm saying a lot of the extra animosity is why I told Black people, like, I don't know why Black people went off and tried to mingle with the LGBT community, because now it's Black Lives Matter and the woke LGBT. Well, we ain't got nothing to do with that. Thanks, Black feminists, but we have nothing to do with that. And so they try to, find a way to have this sort of aggregate wokeness that is the problem, right? When African Americans' problems in this country, based off of the history, it's very unique. LGBTQ includes white people. The idea that LGBT community, white people went through slavery, fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not saying that they've never been attacked or accosted. I'm just saying to try to put that on par with the history and the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. Get the fuck out of my face. Get out of my face with that shit. But yeah, I don't have much else to say. But like I said, I'm not speaking against however Black people decide, that they're going to respond, in real time, because I can see that there, number one, when it comes to white folks, there's no objectivity. And there's really no real justice. There's no real justice. And that's just going to lead to black people who feel, that they have to take matters into their own hands. And that's what's going to happen. And it'll be on the news, and you'll see white people up there, and Megyn Kelly's going to be like, oh, reverse racism. He took it too far. I'm like, why were you over there fucking with him? Well, even though they were fucking with him, that still doesn't mean, why were you over there fucking with him? You see? Everybody wants to talk about there being a backlash, or, what do you want to call it? Like a powder keg. Like, black people are there. Black people are there. Black people just, black people, I think the problem for black people is black people have the hope that one day white people will become the Grinch, in the freaking the Grinch that stole Christmas, and that their hearts will grow and they'll just stop being racist and they'll be fair and equitable. And this is, that chapter is coming to a close. There's more black people now than ever that are like, please let us separate. We don't want to be around them. Because we see how pathological they are. And it really gets exposed when you see the reaching and the gaslighting and the false equivalencies, and trying to act like, oh, this is the same as this. Oh, see, you do it too. And it's like, no, that is not the same as that. Trying to conflate a fucking black guy who grew up in 3 generations of poverty, robbing a convenience store with the top supermarket mass shooter, and saying, well, those two things are no, they're not the same. Like, this is the type of shit that they try to conflate and say, oh, this is the same thing. See, y'all do it too. So even Steven, no, get the fuck out of here. So anyway, I'm done with this video. So that's all I got for y'all. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
On the scene, diamond blingy, whole screen. Checkerboard Louis V. I'm so fresh and so clean. Stuff them bands in my jeans, slap them 30s in them things. Pull the trigger, let it sing. Then go smoke a Russian cream.
Boo, hold on.
Yeah.
Hello?
Where you at?
Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We